Sometimes love isn't enough. As an adoptive mom, people would often say this to me, as if to imply I couldn't love my son enough to change behaviors or heal his trauma, so I should probably just give up. At least that's how I took those four powerful words, which had buried themselves deeply in my mind, leading me to doubt my ability to parent my child. Sometimes love isn't enough. That is the truth. Oftentimes, you need love and powerful, personalized tools to raise a child who's experienced trauma and disrupted attachment, or a child who you're struggling to connect with. I am on a mission to help parents raising kids with a tricky past to show up with unconditional love and practical tools to lovingly manage even the most challenging of times. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Plus, if you like what you hear, I'd love for you to leave a review. Now let's get to the good stuff. Welcome back to Sometimes Love Isn't Enough. Today I want to talk to you about, what I have truly fallen in love with when it comes to not only helping myself, but helping others. I have to first say I giggled a bit when I thought about the title for this episode, about how I fell in love with a tool. I don't mean like that. I mean, perhaps maybe I married a tool. I don't know. But that's not what I mean. What I mean is the tools that we use to parent, to help ourselves grow and evolve, the tools that we use to be a better version of ourselves. I know in my professional life, in my parenting experience, I have a ridiculous amount of tools in my tool belt, from behavior management strategies, positive reinforcement, um, love languages, so many different ways to understand others, to respond to others, to engage with the people that matter most in our life. But here's what I have come to learn is that none of them, not any other tool that I have ever found, experienced, or used in my life, none of them have the power to really see you. So when I think about why I have just fallen head over heels in love with using human design for myself and for my clients, in my family, and my relationships that matter most, here's what I think about human design. First off, it's the science of differentiation. It is the only tool that I know that shows you. It shows your unique energetic blueprint. It shows what you're on this planet to do. When you look in your human design, it actually shows you what your purpose is. It's not so black and white, like, hey, you're on this planet to help, I don't know, help children who are struggling with hunger, right? Like, it's not that clear. It requires reflection and contemplation about what you've experienced and what lights you up. And it's not so black and white because there's so many complex elements to your design. When you put them all together, however, you start to see how each of the very unique pieces of your energetic design all work together. Well, sometimes they work against each other, but that's their purpose. There are parts of us that almost conflict with each other. It can seem like they create struggle in our life, but that's the purpose. The purpose is for us to learn from those challenges, to learn from what perhaps we see as struggle. I don't believe that any of us are designed to struggle. I believe we're designed to have challenges that create friction, create growth, create expansion. Because I know that we're never stagnant. It might feel like you're stagnant, like nothing's changing in life. Maybe you've hit a plateau. Sometimes it feels like that. It feels like you're going nowhere. But the truth is when you feel like you're going nowhere, you're actually probably going backwards. Because when we look at our life and we think nothing's improving, I'm not growing, I'm not expanding, I'm not changing, what's really happening is that you're continuing to add to your belief system that life doesn't change. You continue to add to your belief system that what is, is. And so when I think about this and apply it to parenting, for example, when I think about looking at your situation or looking at my own situation with my son, and I would beat my head against the wall thinking, this isn't getting any better. This isn't going anywhere. What I'm doing is not working. Well, the truth is that it was going somewhere. Things were getting worse in my home. My relationship with my son was crumbling right in front of my eyes. I felt like I wasn't going anywhere. But when I take a step back and look at the bigger picture, I realized that the truth is we were going somewhere, but we weren't moving forward. We weren't moving forward together. We were crumbling together. So our unique human design shows us how very unique we are, and it gives us a roadmap. So oftentimes I talk with my clients about how your design, when you look at that weird looking shapes and lines and numbers and all of that, when you look at that, it it shows you your roadmap or your lesson plan to fulfill your purpose. But when we're born, so we're all born with this beautiful, perfectly designed blueprint. But life happens. Our parents don't know about our design, or even when they do, my big, big hope for humanity is that parents see their kids based on their energetic designs and respond accordingly. But that's a big task. And I know that as you're listening to this, your parents probably, I could bet money on that your parents probably didn't know your design and didn't know how to respond to your unique needs. They responded to their own conditioning and their own beliefs about parenting and the way that they were parented. And they responded to your behaviors, but they didn't understand your unique energetic needs. So, so just by that, even in the most well-intentioned parenting, when our parents don't understand our needs, they condition us to not feel like it's safe to be who we are. When society and life and media and social media and well-meaning aunts and grandparents give us feedback that gives us the message that it's not safe or okay to be who we are, to be who we're designed to be, it conditions us. And so I look at human design in two very distinct ways. One, I look at it as the science of differentiation. It shows us exactly how very unique we are, and no two humans are the same. We can see that looking around. You can see that when you look at a set of twins, identical twins, and they have very unique personalities, unique responses to things. It's because they're different. But human design isn't just the science of differentiation. It isn't just showing us who we are. It's also the art of deconditioning. So last night I was talking with a client and they were saying, okay, this is lovely. Thanks for showing us who we are. Thanks for helping us understand our design. But now what? Right? Like I'm still reacting to my child in the moment. I'm still fighting against them. I'm still trying to control what's happening in the family. It's great to know how we're supposed to be, but what in the heck do we do about that? Well, that's the fun of human design, is taking what you learn about yourself. I see it as going through a process, right? First, it's understanding what the heck does all of this mean? How do I look at this weird configuration of shapes and lines and numbers and understand it, right? So that's first understanding what does it mean to be a manifesting generator, or what does it mean to have a 2-5 profile, or what does it mean when my head and my ajna are undefined? What does it mean when my spleen is defined, right? These all sound like such weird concepts, but that first step is understanding your design. Just getting the lay of the land, understanding what the shadow and the gift aspects are of your design. Because every part of your design has a high frequency and a low frequency. Every part of it. Nothing about you is good or bad. Nothing about you is good or bad. It just is. And we So that first step is just learning, just going into the library, learning what you need to learn. But then it's putting what you're learning into practice in the moments. And that first phase of putting it into practice in the moments of life is clunky. When you first start to have that awareness that, oh, this is a part of me, this is a part of what my lesson plan is, then we get to do something about it. So for me, for example, one huge part of my design, so it's part of my core four or my incarnation cross. So it is what I'm on this planet to learn about and do to fulfill my purpose. One of it is called the gate of rationalization. So it's gate 24, if you have this in your design. But this gate on the shadow side is all about settling for less than you're worth. When I am stuck in my shadow or in a low frequency, or as I have been conditioned throughout my life, I have spent decades settling for less than I'm worth. It's something that I still to this day struggle with is seeing my own value, seeing what I have to contribute to the world. But it's part of my lesson plan. When I figure this out, and I have, right? Like I have had moments where I'm like, oh, this is where I belong. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. When I step in to seeing my value and stepping into my value, because this is my grounding. Gate 24, the gate of rationalization, is my grounding. So on the shadow side, it's all about settling for less than you're worth. But on the gift side or on the high frequency side, that exact same gate that I have access to the shadow and the gift. That exact same gate is about seeing your value and stepping into your value. So I have control over that. And I get to learn through my experiences with other people because my gate 24 happens to be in an open center, which means I get to learn about this energy as I experience life with other people. When I step into that higher frequency of gate 24, then I radiate out into the world these beautiful gifts of helping other people break patterns that are no longer serving them. Because my grounding, my earth, is that gate of rationalization. But then my sun or my radiance, what I'm radiating out into the world, is all about seeing patterns that are no longer serving us and helping others break them, helping others see the ones that are worth sticking to, because some patterns are necessary to survive in life. So we think about parenting, right? Parenting is full of patterns, full of it. We set up routines with our kids. We set up patterns of showing them love. We set up patterns of showing our kids their value. We set up patterns to make sure we get them out the door to get to school or daycare or wherever they're going. Some patterns in life are necessary, but some patterns, right? Our human brain is designed to create and hold on to patterns. It helps us survive, but they're not all good. And so when I am fully standing into my self-worth, when I am not settling for less than I'm worth, then I can help others see the patterns that they're stuck in. And this is exactly what I do in my coaching, is I step into my gift. If I log on for a coaching session and I'm stuck in my shadow of my gate 24 and thinking like, oh, I'm just not really worthy of these clients. I think I'm not good enough for them. If that's the energy that I take into my coaching sessions, well, I'm not going to see their patterns. I'm not going to see where they're stuck. This is the work of human design, is when we step into the higher energy, when we have that awareness that we have access to both ends of that energetic spectrum for every part of our design. When you look up, if you're a generator, for example, and you read about what it means to be a generator, well, having a generator energy type has high and low energy to it. It's not good or bad. It's both. It's all of the above. But we have access to the entire spectrum. Our life experiences, the energy that we have been exposed to throughout our life, those things veer us off track. Those things veer us towards that negative end of the spectrum. But when we have this awareness that we have access to the whole spectrum, it changes the way we approach ourselves. So when I think about human design. Like I said, it's the science of differentiation and then the art of deconditioning. That deconditioning, like I said, that first step is just learning you. That second step is having that awareness, starting to notice it in your everyday life. And phase one of noticing it, as I mentioned, is noticing like, oh, there I go again, not seeing my own value. There I go again, settling for less than I'm worth. There's noticing it. And initially, right, like we're going to keep responding or reacting the way that we have been because we're full of patterns. So that first phase is really just awareness and awkwardness. Like, oh gosh, I did it again. I settled for less than I was worth again. That second phase of step two, as we're implementing, putting it into the everyday parts of our life, is then reflecting on what we noticed, right? First, we notice, and we're probably going to say, like, oh, I did it again. I settled for less than I was worth. But then it's taking that next step and asking ourselves questions about, okay, what could I do next time I'm in that same situation? Or what evidence have I seen where I have evidence of that higher energy? What evidence do I have that I am stepping into my value, that I'm not settling for less than I'm worth? I have all kinds of evidence in my life where I see my value and I step into that. And I have all kinds of evidence in my life where I don't. And so it's taking the evidence that's already in your life and applying it to more and more and more situations. This is the art of deconditioning. It's it's an art, right? It isn't, I don't have a tool to give you to specifically say this is exactly how you're going to decondition. It's about awareness and being compassionate with ourselves. It's about being in those moments and recognizing, oh, there I go again. That's interesting that that popped up. I wonder what triggered that. Perhaps it's the energy of the other person. The more we understand about human design, the more that we realize that we are energetically triggered by others' energy. We're energetically attracted to others' energy. There's so many things happening when we interact with other people. And so having that awareness and then making a decision that I am done settling for less. I am done settling for the shadow energy of whatever that struggle is. It's making a decision and then coming up with a plan of action. If you don't have one, that's what I help my clients do. So feel free to reach out. I'd love to help you with that too. But it's about it's about taking that action to start changing the way that you show up. And it isn't magical. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen with consistent awareness and compassion and shifting the way that we show up in our most important relationships, shifting the way that we show up for ourselves. So, and then that third and final step I see, right? First is learning us, then it's having awareness in our moments. And there are a few phases to that. The first awkward phase where we like we keep noticing after we did it again, right? And then we start to notice that we did it and we reflect on that. And then that third phase I really see is making that decision that I'm going to do this differently and I am dedicated to shifting my patterns about, for example, for myself, shifting my patterns about settling for less than I'm worth. This will be my life's work for the rest of my life. I will never master this because I'm human. And I am continuing to work on deconditioning, but life still keeps conditioning me and you. But that's the work. It's about it's about, like I said, we're always moving. Always. It's about moving in the direction that you want to move instead of letting life, being victim to life, moving you backwards, moving you away from your purpose, moving you away from what you're supposed to be doing. Because when we start doing that, then we can start asking ourselves even bigger questions. For example, then I can start asking myself, why? Why is it my lesson plan to learn about seeing my value? Why is this part of my purpose? What am I here to do? What am I here to help others do when I can understand better how I keep rationalizing for less than I'm worth? Why is that my lesson? That's the work that I get to do to understand me so that I can help you. And that is the work that I've been doing over the past couple of years. And it's been beautiful and hard. It's hard to look back over my past and see how I've made these mistakes over and over again. But this is the part that I love about human design is prior to understanding human design, it was easy to beat myself up. Or it was easy to look at other people who were misbehaving, look at kids, parents, people at the grocery store. It was easy to look at people as like, why are they acting like that? Right? That was my reaction. Now, through the lens of human design, I look at people with curiosity. I find it quite comical, actually. I used to get annoyed with people like, oh, that was so rude. And now I look at people who I could perceive that they're being rude, but I look at them and think, I wonder if they have. And then I run through things that I know about human design, like I wonder if they have an open will center and they're just trying to prove their worth. Or I wonder if they have an open head or ajna center and they're just really so susceptible to other people's ideas and they're questioning whether or not they know enough. So they're trying to prove their value, right? I look at people energetically now because I understand the way that human design works. It it helps us be so much more compassionate with others and get out of the loop of our own expectations. It gives us freedom. I've fallen in love with human design because it gives you the freedom to know you in such a beautiful way without shaming, without regret, without resent for the way that you are, because you get to have this beautiful control over the way that you show up in the world. That whole spectrum, like I said, is all yours. So, understanding our unique human design gives us an incredible freedom to take full responsibility for our own reactions, our own responses to others, our own interactions, our own relationships. I love, 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 love human design because it helps me decrease my frustration with others. And again, I'm not perfect by any means, but when I look at me today now and the way that I think about other people and think about myself compared to a year ago or 5 years ago, it is drastically different. And of course, those thoughts still pop up like, oh gosh, what a jerk, right? Those things will pop in my head. And then quickly my brain is like, oh, wait, I wonder what it is about his design that would make him act that way. One little nugget I want to just throw in there is I know that we're not just our design. We're our conditioning. And we also have experienced life. We've experienced traumas, perhaps. Our resiliency keys have been impacted, shattered, crushed, whatever you want to look at that as. I know that we're so much more than our design, but it gives us this really actually very concrete tool, practical tool to be more compassionate with ourselves and be more compassionate with everybody. Even imagine. So imagine for a second if you pick somebody in your life that you just despise, somebody that you can't stand who has caused you so much pain. Imagine if you understood their design and understood how conditioning in their life had led them to act the way that they do. You would have such a different perspective of that person if you could look at them through the lens of human design instead of just looking at them as an evil or narcissistic or hateful person. It just helps us be so much more compassionate. And I think the same so wholeheartedly when I think about parenting. When we can look at our kids through this lens, through and not shaming ourselves because we condition our kids off track, right? This is life. This is the human experience. But when we can look at our kids' unique human design and see what they need energetically to fulfill their purpose, what kind of feedback they need, what kind of communication they need, how they respond to life, how they make decisions, what they're influenced by, how they relate and interact with other people in their life. it creates a profound shift in the way that we see our kids. So I, if you have not yet started to look into your human design, I'd love to help you with it. I know that it is a complex system. I really work with my clients to simplify it, to help make it very practical. It's part of my design. I am a 2-5 profile. That 2 in me is a natural. Things come easy peasy for me. They always have. But that 5 part of my profile is a practical leader. And I really work to make what I am understanding and sharing, I really work to make it practical and simple and to give things that, okay, here's what I suggest you do this week to start noticing a shift in your life, in your relationships, in the way you see your kids. So I I'm going to leave you with this question. If if you if you could envision yourself creating more impact in your family, impact in your community, impact at work, impact for yourself, and you could get out of struggle, what would that look like? I know for me, the vision that I see for myself and the freedom that I have created in my mind and in my heart is just unbelievable how very differently I am able to impact others because I've gotten out of my own way. I'm working on deconditioning. I'm doing the dance of deconditioning. And it's not easy and it's not overnight, but it is 100% worth it because I don't even recognize old Angie from a couple of years ago who was so stuck in her own head, so feeling a victim to what was happening in her own home with her child. I don't even recognize the Angie who was crying with locks and alarms on her doors because she couldn't understand how to connect with her son. I was so caught up in his behaviors instead of having this beautiful, beautiful tool to really see what he needed energetically, to see what I needed energetically as his mom. The needs that I had and have that are part of me, had I known then, and I'm not saying this to beat myself up, right? It's about being a compassionate scientist and looking back and reflecting and seeing like, oh, that's what I was supposed to learn there. And had I had these tools, and this is why I'm so passionate about sharing it with you, but had I been able to look at my unique energetic needs and understand me, had I been doing this deconditioning work then, I would have been in such a better place to show up for him the way that I needed to. It's not too late for you though. I myself have been doing this work for the past few years, and the way that I show up for my son is hands down a million times different than I ever thought it could be, and that it was when I thought I was doing all the right things, when I was working so hard to be his mom and help with his behaviors. I was trying so hard. I was beating my head against the wall and making things worse. Knowing your unique design is the key. So that's what I'm going to leave you with is what would life look like if you were able to step into creating the impact that you're here designed to do. I hope that you found this episode so incredibly powerful. Thank you for joining us for Sometimes Love Isn't Enough. If you resonated with what you heard here, please subscribe to this podcast and give us a review. You can also follow us on all the socials. Check the show notes for all the details about how to start tackling behaviors and creating a powerful, loving relationship with your child, a child who needs your love the most. And if your gut's telling you that it's time for a change now, book a free consult. I'd love to help you love unconditionally and show you that you have that power within you.